What's going on, y'all? It's Jason Reviews here, back at it again with another video. As you guys can see by the title, we are going to be doing a 40 bars versus John review. Now, if you guys saw my predictions for Bullpen last week, obviously there was a full card to talk about, but there was cancellations. Spent my 45, sat through the 2 to 3 hour delay, normal battle rap shit, just to find out that Chef Trez versus Charlie Clips was not going down. JC or Clone or Ease versus Super Black. He spoke to travel issues / personal issues. He said John, as in he, running the league, said JC had travel issues. He was on to communication, something with the plane. And then with Ease and Clips, he had a lot less information. And just none of those battles went down. So what you get is two of the fine print battles, as I call them. But really like the two undercard battles, which was Mallory X versus Mr. Man. Mallory X had a horrible choke in her first. Her second and her third was good. I know that she's had, you know what I'm saying, a little bit of noise coming up, and she showed why. But a choke in the third and a horrific choke in the first kind of gave it to Mr. Man, who was pretty good, you know what I'm saying, for the fact that you go into the card not knowing who it is and it's a battle that people isn't going to snatch their attention. I thought Mr. Man was pretty all right. And Ro Baby was just terrible versus Exigo, who was okay, you know what I'm saying, he won 3-0, but you really just get left with the main event here when it comes to 40 and John. And shout out to John, man, that's tough. You lose money, you lose time, and you could see by his face leading up to it, he really lost energy going into a main event where your card falls apart. But I thought he gave one of his better performances of the year. I thought 40 was really good, and he get a good main event overall, so I thought I'd spotlight it, give it its own full detailed review. And without further ado, let's get right into the first round. So, starting out the first round, starts on John, lost the coin toss, 40, had him go first. Starts out with a makeup scheme, cool little makeup scheme. We've heard it before, but had the beat your face kind of, you know what I'm saying, flip on it. And then has this, like, reverse DV angle, like, yeah, DV, but what about the women that lie about it? Kind of counter-rating, I think, for the angle that's going to come against him. Obviously, John has the domestic violence angle from what happened, you know what I'm saying, really going all the way back to the Hollow battle. If Adam and Eve is true, why do we take the woman's side? A few punches on it. Thought it was all pretty cool stuff. Don't know if I fully believe in what he's trying to prove there with the content, but I do understand what he was going with it. The square root, 40's been simplified. I like that. He talked about booking 40 and, like, kind of this whole concept of giving her better looks to help in her career. And he's like, I'm basically your father, raising bars. Thought that was all right. The hustle and prep wordplay. He's the man behind the pen, like, I'm a man behind the pen, like, hustle and prep. And then he does it like, you was hustling, prepping, and prep and hustle. And he flips it like 8 different ways. It was cool. And then does the same thing with 40 and loaded. Loaded 40, I find 40 loaded. So I'm not like perfectly saying it back to you, but you understand what I'm saying there when he's just taking 2 words and doing the sentences a variety of different ways. Every round going either way. We got a classic. Thought that was cool. And he said it wasn't until trannies popped up everywhere that the agenda switched. It was a cool first from John. Kind of files in. You could see these are the bars I mentioned here. Files into some of his other rounds where it's just cool. Like the father raised bar. Oh, it raised you. You know, like that was solid. The makeup scheme, like they're cool, they make sense, but it's a little bit on the content side, lacking that creativity there. You know, a lot of these bars we've really just heard before. I like the 40. Simplified though, probably my favorite bar of the round from him. And then you get into 40's first. She said, this is making history for your league. Bullpens never had 2 bitches in the main event. This is 2 queens booked like the Sheridan. So starting right off, hitting a couple punches. I'm dragging him like it's Valerian. This is some shit that he had not seen. This veterinarian, I hate Nazi bars. I really do. The Nazi, but I did like this veterinarian, the Aryans, the Nazis. I thought that, so that's an example of find that little bit of creative wordplay to flip it up, kind of like he did with the makeup scheme. I've heard the Nazi bars, but I like that from 40. Then there was a heckler popping in saying, oh, we can't hear you. That's why we're not cheering. And she's takes, I don't know if it was a freestyle or just like pre-written and it timed up well, but she repeats the whole Valerian, I'm scaring him. His fans don't want me to kill the bull. They vegetarian. That was crazy. Hit like a super haymaker. And from there you go. Fan gives her all the momentum that she was already working with. Gets into the cleaning scheme. Gunshots, bullets go from John Cheek to John Creek. The ageism bar, I'm just 40 and he mad. I'm his grandmother. I had surf and then he sons you after. Crazy. The bottom You a Bottom Feeder, Long John bar. Thought that was dope. And even ends it with the Usher, watch this, you know what I'm saying, her little own flip on it, which she got some extra points because 40 doesn't really do performance bars. But even by then, when she hit the I'm his grandmother, I had surf, and then he suns you, I thought she really clearly won the first round. I don't think it's like a murder, but I just think that she clearly won it. Decent first from John John, but it lacks peaks. A little bit of that content issue, which is it's just cool. It's just going through the motions. Well, I thought 40 had a great round, so I had her 1-0 going into the second. From there, we get back into John John's round, and John John goes to the second. He starts with this, it's like this scheme where he's talking sex talk, right? And I think Rose, you know what I'm saying, did it to Shayna a little bit in their battle, and that's when you know it's kind of going in the wrong direction, right? So it's kind of misdirects. He's like, oh, talk about I'll give you a cum shot, all this in detail stuff, and he's like, I don't think y'all heard me right. And he brings the whole scheme back. And he's like, so if I slide up with this stick, you gonna become shot. I think that was like the haymaker punch that he put on it, which usually sex bars, you know what I'm saying, you're riding a fine line because it can get weird. But even though they didn't like it originally, and then he brings it back into the scheme, that's what made it hit harder, the misdirection. And he actually lands a haymaker, you know what I'm saying, coming out into his second round. I never said you was broke. I never said, he names all these angles, like horrible things about her, saying he never said it when he's saying it. A little bit of comedy there. I don't care if you a cokehead when everyone I know's fed. He said it's gonna be like hip hop is real when the cops catch me. They said, do you know bars? Not to my knowledge. Thought that was cool. I like that. The Uber Lyft bar, like I said, kind of heard that, you know what I'm saying, before. Then the don't orgasm, that's what you came to see. So the orgasm came to see bar I thought was cool. And then a little bit end of his round, there's a dry spot. He does land a haymaker right at the end. So dryish round, but at the beginning he has a haymaker. At the end, it's this space bar haymaker that he lands. Kind of brought it back, used the word space, then brought it back later. It was like a rocket taking off, which y'all didn't like that space bar. I like that. So he starts the round good and ends it good. I don't think it has as much content as the first, but it's kind of evens out to like the same level around, in my opinion. And 40 starts with a haymaker that she rebuttals the domestic violence angle kind of from the first in a way, right? Because he doesn't mention it much in the second, and then says, because when John hands cock back, that's his signature move. Your John Hancock, your signature. So I thought that she took a minute to get there. It wasn't the cleanest rebuttal, but she actually hit it pretty well, and then gets into the domestic violence angle. So John does predict it a little bit, but I don't think it really stops some of the bars here. Talking about from the perspective of his girl, the second that John Cena, they got to wrestling, that was pretty fire. The flight scheme that she had, the baggage, takeoff joint, you know what I'm saying? It's so hard to quote all of 40 stuff when she gets there, like little mini schemes, have 3 to 4 references. It's just in like a 2-bar, you know what I'm saying, span, 4-bar span. But it's like this mini flight scheme that she hits, and then she gets in the peak of her second round, the card and spade scheme. She's going through the suits, very seamless, you know what I'm saying? The deuce, you know what I'm saying? The Joker, she gets through every part of it. Bid, cut, very, very layered and detailed. One of the better card schemes that you're really going to hear in battle rap. Finishes that with a haymaker. He's scared to shoot. He's Ben Simmons. Kind of heard that before. The androgynous. Thought that was dope. The John Dis bar. As soon as I show John Dis, you're going to see the sickness in his eyes. The John Dis, you know what I'm saying? Yellow eyes. He's sick. That's the bar. The Shepherd's Pie bar. Dope. One shot turns your homies into sweatshops. They'll be making plenty of shirts for you. 40 is just not playing. This is what she does versus men. She has her best rounds, you know what I'm saying? Even though it's kind of funny, the delivery in this one, since they obviously are cool, it's a little bit funnier, a little bit more friendly, which I think kind of adds to battles and take way too much in this one. But her content, the first and second, it reminds me of her Ill Will content, her Sue Surf content, man. She's just every bar with it, minimal dry spots. Even if she's not hitting haymakers, she's giving you something a little in between, and she gives you those haymaker peaks of the round. In my opinion, it was a pretty clear 2-0 for 40 going into the third. And then you get to the third round of the battle, and kind of a pattern of John John's year is he's been having really good third rounds. You know what I'm saying? I've been critical of him on here, and I think, now I have him down 2-0. Obviously, you could go once again and say I am being critical of him, right? Having him lose another battle this year. But for the most part, I have him winning the third in almost all of his battles this year. I have him winning his third versus Chef Trez. Which I think he won pretty clear. I think he definitely won the third versus T-Top. He won the third and he won every round versus Jay Mills. It's Jay Mills. And then here versus 40, I got him winning the third. I'm just gonna let you know off rip. He takes an angle early about there's no female only league. It kind of said Remy Ma's no female only league. Saw that she needed a male face and found an easy fix. Works well, especially with 40's recent comments about saying that Remy Ma and Chrome moved on too fast when the ladies didn't give him a fair chance. It would hit harder if 40's last two performances weren't terrible on Chrome. She showed up to C3 for the tourney with basically no rounds, and then and then versus Yoshi, her first was good, and then she choked in the second. She kind of had her part in ruining the footage of that battle. Not all of her fault, but a good part in it. So kind of a comment that hasn't sat right with people already. We can kind of see a little bit of the funniness in it, and then takes that argument against her. Thought it was a good way to open the third. The opportunist angle, talk about 40 being an opportunist. She says, I'm an op, I'm dropping bombs, I must be Oppenheimer. A cool little flip there. The flip of the trash talk 40 had. So 40 had the whole, you're not explosive like Twerk. You don't have real talk like Geechee. You're not as popular as Surf. You don't got the numbers like Hitman. That type of. And he flips it. You don't punch like Official. You're not aggressive like Hustle. You don't get paid like Jazz. And I thought that was a really good way to flip it. Kind of landed a haymaker out of it. From there, the paper towel. This one was funny with the prop. He's at the paper towel, and he's like, your style's like a paper towel. He rips one off. He says, because you're dry off the rip. It's almost corny, but in a funny way. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was a little bit clever. I like that bar. The bad parenting angle, usually taken against 40. The Players Club at Lisa Ray bar was cool. And I thought starts out good, pretty consistent round. I thought this was the best, not crazy explosive off the paper, but the best round from John in this battle. And then 40 goes, and her third is cool. It's definitely a step down from the first two. The gender reveal bar, pretty dry, just like jabby round for the most part. Has kind of a rebuttal, maybe a pre-written rebuttal about some of the Yoshi angle stuff, how much she's above Yoshi, so why is he even taking the angle? A little bit of legacy talk, and then saying, well, while John's just a common name, saying that John's just anyone, but also John, the name John is a very common name, one of the most common in the world. So I like that bar. And then the bullpen roster scheme hit pretty good at the end of her third, but for the most part, shorter third, less potent third from her. While John had one of his better rounds of the battle. So for me, once again this year, while I did have John losing the battle and losing the first two rounds, I had him pretty clearly taking the third and losing the battle overall 2-1. And that is my full review here for John and 40. Like I said, pretty good battle. Like John first and second round, I have a little bit of the same complaint issues, and maybe that's just a style thing at this point, right? Or maybe who knows what it is? Somewhere is it a style thing? Does John need to update the content for whatever it is? It's kind of a pattern here that I've seen with this year, where even though I didn't love the content's first two rounds, they're not terrible. They're not just complete. He's not choking. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing like that. That's just disgusting, but it's just content-wise, a little bit of outdated stuff. But then he gets the third, and I love his third. So he's winning all of his thirds this year. But 40 proves once again why she is who she is, especially against men. And in my opinion, pretty clearly got the first two rounds against a decent John and won this battle. You can add that to repertoire of now John, Surf, Loso, Ill Will, Big T, Daylight, Cortez. She's getting to a point where her body of work versus men is very soon just going to be better than her body of work versus women, which is also very impressive of her own right, although more inconsistent. But great performance from her, which we'd expect in this situation. John, feel for man. You could see before the battle and in like the intermission, he's like wiping his eyes like this. He's tired, man. And I feel, thank God he's got Dope in the Pen coming up late October, which I will be doing predictions for. It is the better card of these two. That was on paper, although this was a good card too. But if that turns out great, I think, I'm saying, he could feel a little bit better about how all of October's went. Definitely still all eyes on that card in Oakland. And overall for this event, even though it went down the way it did, that was a pretty good main event. For those of you that have seen it, please let me know in the comments down below who you personally had winning the battle. Also, I've seen all these updates. I saw from URL's weekend, Swamp versus Trez just dropped on the app, so I'm going to go watch that right after this. I saw that Nitty might have gotten 30 by Foots, or at least he's already admitted to the loss. You know what I'm saying? People saying the second's debatable, but it might be a 30. Crazy result. I haven't heard too much about Jack and Rock. Heard the rookies knocked it out of the park at final exams. Eunice might have won, Kappa might have won, her dice got it clear on Real Deal. So all of that I can't cover because like we haven't seen it. But as those battles drop, I do plan to just throw a million reviews out. So if you guys like the single battle reviews I do, get used to that because it's going to be a lot of review. And then the end, I'm going to have a good little 4 or 5 minutes to talk about the talents, how they got here, more detailed topical stuff. But it's been J Smo Reviews again, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to catch you on the next one, man. Peace.